So, Dr. Umar Johnson on the Bittersweet Podcast, coming right on. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense Logical Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So as we know, Dr. Umar Johnson went to Australia and he interviewed with the Bittersweet Podcast. Now, whenever Dr. Umar Johnson does interviews, he never fails to disappoint, to show us just how much an idiot he is. And the more he speaks, the more of an idiot he becomes. Of course, to those people thinking, those people who are not brainwashed. But anyway, he basically said a lot of nonsense, and I already addressed a couple of things that parts of that video, that interview. I addressed the part about it when she said that he asked black women, are they willing to invest $700 into the man that they're dating, not the man that they're married to, but the man that they're dating. I believe that that's nonsense. And I also addressed the very beginning of the interview in my video, the Umar Method, when I talks about the method of how Dr. Umar Johnson racializes everything. But anyway, so I'm going to go into more of the interview, and I'm going to start off with him basically explaining what his three principles of Pan-Africanism is.
So I wanted to get right into the topic with my topics today. I wanted to ask you, before we get into everything, if you can explain a little bit about Pan-Africanism.
Pan-Africanism can be summed up in three basic principles. Number one, all African people constitute a single human family. Whether you're in Ethiopia, Nigeria, South Africa, whether you're in Australia, Jamaica, Brazil, whether you're in Texas, New York, Toronto, whether you're in Paris, UK, or Ireland, we are one people. No matter what our religion is, no matter what our nationality is, no matter what language we speak, whether your hair is nappy like mine or more fine like yours, we are still one family, and we should identify as African first. So it's not just enough to know you're African, you must prioritize your Africanity. So you're never a Christian who happens to be an African, you're an African who happens to be a Christian. You're never a Muslim who happens to be an African. You're an African who happens to be a Muslim. And why? God made you African. Your family made you Christians. People leave the church every day. People leave the masjid every day. People renounce their Australian citizenship every day. People renounce their American citizenship every day. You can never renounce being African. God made you black. Being black, being African is the most divine. It is the most sacred group membership you have, and we should prioritize it.
Okay, by African, basically what he means is black. That's what he means. So if you're black, you're African. Now, obviously, there's a major flaw in this to anyone who's thinking. There's a major flaw. Black doesn't mean Africa, okay? An African is a person that's born and raised in Africa. That's an African, or a person who's connected to the culture of Africa. If you move to another country and you move somewhere, you're still African. So Elon Musk is more African than Dr. Umar Johnson is, okay? And just because, like I said, just because he has a citizenship with Ghana, he's still an American. He was born, raised an American, he's an American. So him having citizenship in Ghana does not change that. But like I said, to be black does not mean be African. A black person can be born and raised anywhere, and that's what they are. You're a black person born in America, you're an American. You're a black person born and raised in Europe, you're European. Okay, you're a black person born in Australia, you're an Australian. But black does not mean African. That's nonsense.
Principle two, as Africa goes, so goes all African people.
Okay, this is more nonsense. Okay, there is no such thing as a magical tie to Africa because you are black. Okay, being black does not mean that you have the magical tie nor any spiritual tie to Africa. Africa is a continent. It's not a race of people. It's not a DNA. It's a continent no different than all the other continents. It's the same dirt, sand, and rock as all the other continents. There's nothing magical about Africa. Okay? This is just more foolishness from him. Anybody, like I said, would have a brain could realize this. But what they try to do is they try to inject race into everything. So this is where they come up with this. If you're black, you're an African and you're tied to Africa. I'm a black and I'm American. I have no ties to Africa. I've never been to Africa. The only place that I've ever been was in America. I'm an American citizen. I'm not African. So that's idiotic. And again, he's American. He's not African. He's an American. I don't care how many dashikis he have and how much African garb he wears. He's an American.
We wonder why in Australia we suffer racism. In America, we suffer racism. In the UK, where I was last week, we suffer racism. In Ireland, where I'll be in January, we suffer racism. Why? Because we have not built up Africa to be strong enough to look out for her scattered black children wherever we may be in the world.
Dr. Umar Johnson is not suffering no damn racism. He can't tell you how he's suffering no racism or how he's being oppressed in America. That's just, again, the same nonsense that all the other brainwashed the black victims say. But there's nothing about Africa that impacts blacks not in Africa. Okay, unless you are a black person from Africa and you move somewhere and you have ties to it, you have no connection to it, and it does not impact you at all, and certainly not black people in America. What he's trying to say is that, again, as Africa goes, as they say, so does black people all the rest of the world. So black people in the rest of the world can't flourish anywhere, no matter where you are, unless Africa's flourishing. That's stupid. Again, I always like to refer back to Indian Americans, right? They have the highest income per capita in America. Okay, the reason why they have this is because they go out there and do what's required to produce that high income per capita, highest median income than any other group in America. Not because India is some major economic power in the world. It's not. It's a major country, but it's not a major economic power. And there's nothing about India that's impacting Indians that are in America. That's ridiculous. That's stupid. Again, American blacks can do whatever it is that they want, and black people in America can do exactly the same thing that Indian Americans are doing, and we can get the same results. So it has nothing to do with Africa. It's about behavior. Black people in America typically have a behavior that leads to the situation that a lot of blacks in America are in. Has nothing to do with the state of Africa. That's nonsense on top of more nonsense, but people will listen to this BS. And this is why it's so important why Dr. Umar Johnson is never going to interview with somebody who he believes that he's going to check him. He's always going to come with this, well, I only speak to those who are my equal. No, he don't. He just goes places where he knows he's not going to be checked on this nonsense, because he does plenty of interviews.
The Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, the greatest Pan-Africanist of all, he said that a strong man is strong everywhere. So as I travel the world, as someone who's been almost just about everywhere, wherever I find Chinese, they're being respected, they're in a position of power. Wherever I find South Asian Indians, they're being respected, they're in a position of power. Wherever I find Anglo-Saxons or European Jews, they're being respected, they're in a position of power. And wherever African people are, even in Africa, we are disrespected and seldom in positions of power. If we want to be strong, if we want to be respected, Africa has to be strong. Africa has to be respected. None of us can do better than the continent we come from. Take care of the mother, and the mother will take care of her children.
The Chinese, South Asian Indians, and Anglo-Saxon European Jews are respected because they're respectable. Okay, they do the things that command respect. Are blacks doing the same? Or can you say that blacks all throughout the world are doing the things that's going to command respect? Well, I can say not a lot of black folks in America are doing things that's going to command respect from anyone. But how are these black people being disrespected then? Based off of what? That's basically the argument he's making here. This is another disparity argument, and this idea that because black folks are wherever they are, they're not equal to white folks or whoever, then it must be racism. But a disparity proves nothing. Disparity is not the evidence. I've always said this. The evidence, the real evidence, is basically how we got there. So if black people are in a condition where they're not equal to white folks, then are white folks keeping them in that condition? Or are white folks stopping blacks from ascending and gaining respect, as he said? And I can't speak on the rest of the world, but I can speak in America. In America, the answer to that question is absolutely nothing. That is nothing that a black person cannot do in America to gain power. And the fact is, there are plenty of blacks in America who are in positions of power. And we hear a lot of their loud mouths constantly on TV. Jas McCrockett, okay, the president of the United States for 8 years, was black. Now people can debate if Barack Obama has any real tie to typical FBA or born black Americans culture. The fact is, he was still black, and black folk latched onto him. So that this is ridiculous. I mean, I would just love for him to explain how all these black folks all over the world are being disrespected. Please.
Principle number 3, self-determination. Everything that is to be done for African people must be done by African people. We build our organizations exclusively with black people. We fund our organizations exclusively with black money. We build our families exclusively with black women and black men. Everything must be all black everything. Self-determination. You don't see Jews begging Chinese to help them. You don't see Indians begging Arabs to help them. You don't see Anglo-Saxons begging Latinos to help them. And black people, African people, got to stop begging other people to help us do what we need to learn how to do for ourselves. Self-determination breeds self-respect.
Okay, so what white people can donate to black causes? If a white person donates money to a black cause, the money is invalid. That's stupid. Of course, he wouldn't turn no money down to a white person and donate it to him, as if he would actually know if it was a white person. But anyway, this is more of that institution BS. One of the things that these race hustlers grasp onto is how we need to build institutions. We do not need to build no damn institutions to be successful. Nobody has to build institutions to be successful in America. How exactly, or where are all these Indian American institutions? Where are all these Asian institutions? If Asian people are outperforming black or everybody in just about every metric in society, including white folks, but where are all these Asian or Indian institutions? This is the dumbest thing nonsense. You do not have to build a hospital to be a doctor or to be a lawyer or an engineer or something, or open up a business. Become a barber. You do not have to build no institutions to do none of that nonsense. And if he's a doctor, he's Dr. Umar Johnson, right? So what institution has he actually built that entitles him to give the label of doctor? Nothing. He went to school and got a degree. You didn't build no institutions. He can't build a school. Talking about a damn institution. And secondly, we already have institutions. So why are we trying to build institutions when institutions exist? We have hospitals. Regardless if a black person owns a hospital or not, ain't no hospitals turning down black folks for being black. Right? There's no bank that's going to refuse a black person just for being black. If you get refused by a bank, regardless of who owns it, the color, the people who owns it, it's some criteria that you didn't meet, not because of your skin shade. Okay, we have schools. We have plenty of schools. There's no black child in America that does not have a school that they can go to. So if the schools are bad, as they claim these inner city schools are bad, then how about we stop tearing the schools down? How about we stop raising children with those ridiculous ghetto attitudes, bad attitudes, who keep tearing down the schools? And then the schools won't be bad. I mean, most of these schools in the inner city that they keep saying are failing and bad at one point in time, more than likely, I would say far more often than not, were decent schools. But when the family institutions of black people, the institution that he needs to worry about, the family institution of black, or the black family, once the black family started to degrade, is when we started to see all the problems in the inner city. It didn't exist prior to that. Prior to that, the schools are decent and fine. You know, so this is, like I said, this is just more nonsense from Dr. Umar Johnson and his whole self-determination. If it was just a matter of self-determination, black folks will be doing it right now, because there's nobody stopping a black person from achieving anything. So do it. This is an issue of the lack thereof coming from blacks and not anything of a system. And he's so busy crying about telling black folks about white supremacy and racism and calling black women queens that we can't ever address the real problem, which is his black queens, allegedly black queens. Anyway, y'all, so this is the first part, and I'm going to, again, delve more into the nonsense he said in his video, because anytime you're dealing with Dr. Umar Johnson, 1 minute of an interview with him could be 5 to 10 minutes of content, because he says so much nonsense. So you can't cover everything in one possible video. So I'm going to come back and do a part 2, again, to explore more of the nonsense that he said when he was on the Bittersweet Podcast. Anyway, y'all, as always, until next time.